Hello everybody. My name is Angelique Heineken. I'm a procurement manager for sales and support. I have been working for procurement almost 24 years, and this time I want to share with you my experience in supplier selection, how to learn to select the supplier. My topics at this time are what is a request for proposal, what information should be included in that request for proposal, how to prepare your request for proposal, keeping track of your request for proposals, and how to use a request for proposal to choose a supplier. Request for proposal is RFP. So, when we start with the question, what is a request for proposal? The answer would be, whenever you want to buy a product or a service, you should contact several suppliers who provide this product and services and ask them to give you a proposal or a quote in order to be able to compare a few quotes and pick the best offer. That is very key, as the process itself is really going into a request for proposal and looking what is this. Before you begin, you should ask yourself a few questions. What do I want to buy? This is really important that you ask this for you, otherwise you will not know what to ask the supplier. So make a list of products you want to buy, the quantity you want to have. Make sure you know your budget. Budget is always key, as you can never exceed the budget. That would be not really beneficial, but you also should know what your limits are on the budget. What else do you need? For example, if you buy services, you should have a statement of work. That means describe the services you want to buy and make sure the supplier knows exactly what services you want to have. Next question would be, how do I find the right supplier? So everybody is really searching for suppliers in many ways, but one of a good way how to get information about supplier is the internet. Also use private contacts you may have, or maybe you have recommendations of some friends or partners you have been working with before, and then just use that recommendations. So once you have your table, you know what you want to buy, and you know which supplier you want to select, then go and think of some selection criteria you need. Question would always be, what are my selection criteria? The first one is always the price. So make sure, as I said, you have your budget, and make sure you know how much you can spend. And even though if you're not sure about the rates and the costs for the project, you can always benchmark and try to find in the internet more information about the rates of the supplier. Next one could be and should be the quality. This is also a selection criteria, and I would really try to find out price and quality that this should match. Then another one, a financial company profile. This is knowing more about the companies you want to select. So ask them or find out the criteria, the financial situation of this company. Make sure the company is not going bankrupt. That can be sometimes. Another one would be criteria how the supplier is responding to you. So a timely RFP capabilities is the next one. That means you need to see what capabilities the supplier has, and also let them give you some references. You should be interested in the other customers of the supplier, for example. That also helps you to select suppliers. If the suppliers give you references, then don't hesitate to call these persons and ask how sufficient the work was and if they are satisfied with the supplier. So when we come to the request for proposal itself, so always remember, the more you know, the better you will be selecting also the supplier. So ask the right question at the start. So what I always do is I prepare my whole questionnaire, and then I think of what need to include in the request for proposal. And one part is that I include some information about the company I have, so about myself and the objectives of the RFP. So I want to make sure that the supplier knows why I am approaching him and why I need to ask for a request of proposal. So don't be shy, don't hesitate to give also information about yourself to the supplier when you ask for a request for proposal. Then also would be good to include a pricing model or payment terms, especially for bigger companies like HP, where I'm working for. It's really good to have a pricing model up front, so at the end you can compare the rates from the different offers of the supplier. So it would be always the same model, and then you can compare apples to apples. Payment terms are also good to know. You can have for sure 30 days payment terms or 40 days or whatever, but make sure you always compare the same payment terms. So ask the suppliers for their payment terms. Then a general supplier information. So ask the supplier some question about the supplier itself. So what is he doing? What products does he have? What services is he offering? So everything you think it's useful to know about the supplier, ask him in the request for proposal. Then also make sure that all the questions you ask him will stay confidential, and that he does not share anything with other people or other suppliers. So, and also that you do not share the information he provides to you. Then the timelines of the RFP should be also included in the RFP. That means you give a fixed date to respond to you. If you don't do that, you will get maybe in 2 days one answer, in 3 days another, and then you wait for more than a week for the other answer of the supplier. So just give a timeline. It's important for you and makes it easier to work. What also big companies do when they send out requests for proposal are the contract terms and conditions. That means, for example, HP, we have several contract templates we use within our company, and we want to make sure that the supplier understands our contract terms and conditions and also agrees to it. And if not, for sure, you can always negotiate about that. And last but not least, a statement of work. That means the service you want to buy. Please describe the service in detail as much as possible. The better you describe it, the better you get also the answer from the supplier. So the next step would be prepare your RFP. So you should have a supplier list with your contact details of the supplier, that is the address, the phone and mail. Also, with that list, you prepare a supplier letter. That means you have an official letter which you want to send to the supplier, and in this letter explain why you are contacting them. So make sure it's well understood what you want to get. I also mentioned the questionnaire. That means prepare all the questions up front you want to ask the supplier to make sure you don't forget anything. The statement of work for sure. The pricing table I already mentioned. The timeline. And at the end, if you have that all together to send out, also prepare a tracking table that helps you at the end to track the answers. Here I have a example of a tracking table. That could be, for example, the supplier name, when you send out the RFP, when you want to receive the RFP, and a short list of the supplier. That means short list means that if you want to go in further negotiation with the supplier, or if you just do not want to open any further discussions as the supplier cannot deliver what you want to get. So we talked about the supplier selection criteria. We also talked about how to prepare the RFP. So you prepared it, you send it out to the supplier, then you have a timeline to respond. And the last part is you receive the RFP from the supplier, and then you have to evaluate the results step by step with all the criteria you have already in scope. Then make sure after you evaluate the results that you have a supplier shortlist, negotiate with that suppliers, and after successful negotiation, award the supplier, and the end would be sign a contract with the supplier. So that's all from my side, how to select the supplier with an RFP.